So, admittedly, I've had this video probably recorded and edited for about 3 to 4 months now. Um, the reason why I kind of haven't posted it to this date is because the Christmas break came up and it was just so hectic, and I've started new work as well, but also because I hadn't given the gift to my friends that recently just got married. So I kind of wanted to pay respect and not post the content until I gave it to them. But now we're in the new year, and yeah, need some content to post. And obviously over the festive periods, I thought it would be a good time to post me building a hard maple and walnut chopping board. So hope you guys enjoy. I'm going to be running through the whole process, and it's going to be a full video, hopefully cut up into different bits. There's also going to be a full video available, so hope you enjoy. So just here, we're running the boards on the jointer, just getting a flat surface and also getting a flat side. This helps when you have to either cut it on the table saw or put it through the thicknesser. You just have flat sides to reference off, so this machine's great ever since I've upgraded the helical head. I haven't worked out the power yet, so I'm unable to run my extractor on the same time as using my jointer, so it's a bit of a pain in the ass, but it is what it is. By the way, if you're going to be judging my Adidas jumper here, I mean, just don't even do that. I think it was cold this day, and I'm still in the process of getting some work shirts made up for my business, so just ease up, alright? Ease up. Now we're just going to bring those pieces over the table saw, practically just creating two good edges here. I think we had a bit of a busted edge on this side potentially. Yeah. And then just over to the miter saw to cut it up into the lengths that we want. So cutting all the maple first, making sure that we've got the same kind of length. Doesn't really matter if it's, you know, a bit over or a bit shorter. And then moving on to the walnut and cutting it kind of the same length. So when you glue it up, it'll all glue up kind of the same length and be easier to kind of cut. Then we're just moving over to the thicknesser, which is apparently damn loud on video. Sounds like a screaming child, mind you, but anyway, we're just getting them to the same thickness. Now we can head on over to the table saw, which is probably the scariest part in this whole endeavor, I guess, building this chopping board. These strips are not fun to cut, but yeah, you just got to be safe and doing properly with a push stick. And yeah, should be good. And cut all these strips to kind of the same width, and then a few of them shorter. So far where we're at, so we're gonna have to cut a few more little mini strips of walnut. This doesn't turn out good, but now we kind of just have to clean a few surfaces of this new walnut that we didn't clean up before, and just for these kind of thinner strips in between the maple. There's just something about recording machinery that just sounds like screaming children that I hate. I don't know, something about it, but that's why we sped it up here. Now we're just doing a little lineup, looking pretty good. Obviously have to cut those middle strips down into the width intended, or the height in this case. So we're just doing that one by one here and making sure that they all fit.
Nice.
Now we're just doing some prep work on our clamps because, I mean, everybody hates getting glue on their clamps, and I just hate cleaning clamps, so I'm trying to avoid that at all costs probably. But this was quite fun, and probably the funnest part of the video to record. Just gluing up all the pieces. It's a bit of a pain in the ass to get right. You obviously kind of have to line them all up and we're doing this with type on 3, so the glue is kind of drying as we're doing this, and I'm extremely slow, apparently like a sloth doing this. So yeah, but obviously there's still enough time, and it hasn't obviously dried, so we should be good when we go to glue it up, which you'll see in a second. And at this point, I'm looking at it, I'm like, damn, this looks fucking good. Mind my swearing there, but I'm very happy with the way this is going. Chuck a few more clamps on, make sure it's tight. Now, over to the flattening. So, because the way I glued these up, and because I don't have a drum sander, and lots of things, and because I have glue on my clamps probably, which I told you I hate cleaning, whenever I glue kind of chopping boards up, there's always going to be, you know, a few pieces that are proud, so it's not exactly flat, and so hence the reason why I kind of have to get on the sled, which this is a router sled here, and we kind of have to flatten it, because I can't use the jointer, or I can't use the thicknesser because it's too wide for this. So I have to use my router, which I'm showing there, and of course my previous little setup wasn't wide enough for my new router, so we had to kind of edit this little setup, which is pretty simple, just a few screws and a couple new blocks of wood. Measure out the new size of the router, grab some scraps. And you absolutely wouldn't read about it, right? But apparently I'm terrible at measurement, and actually didn't do this the right size. So I had to cut 2 more blocks again after this off video. And I was too embarrassed to put it in video, but I thought I'd tell everyone anyway. So this is the big beast I'm using though to flatten it. And maybe in a future video I'll show you a little run-in I had with my finger with that piece, but that will be for a future video. I don't think many people would like to see that. But yeah, so we're going to be using this in the router, and it's going to help us kind of flatten the high spots on the chopping board. And just coming up, you'll be able to see some of the high spots, which is there. And here I'll just add how I fucked up. Oh yeah, we're definitely going to have to pack that up. Okay, that is a problem. Or we just cut down the sides. And so cut the sides we did. So now you can see that that bar is actually way closer to the chopping board, and it's just because I've cut the sides, now allowing us to, yeah, start routing this chopping board. So now you're going to see that me going through the whole board and practically just creating a flat surface with this absolute beast of a router bit, which I might put up for adoption now. But yeah, anyway. We're running through this piece, making sure that we are going from left to right, and also making sure that we're not coming back on the cut, if that makes sense. So every time we're doing it, we are just pushing upwards instead of cutting on the way back as well, because that can be quite dangerous. So yeah, now we're just doing the other side, making sure to do the same thing. And some more painfully loud noises that we probably don't need to hear, so I'm just going to speed it up. So here's the final result. I thought it turned out pretty damn good. So obviously you can see the ridges in the board, but that's why this new beast is going to come in handy, because apparently we can't help ourselves spending lots of money on tools that we're not going to use much. But anyway, it's fun buying tools, so I mean, we're going to keep doing it anyway. So we bought this new beast to flatten out the ridges on the chopping board and just get it kind of all level. So here we're just running through, stupidly enough, without any clamps on. We learned pretty quick to chuck some clamps on. We're just going on a diagonal and then kind of going over it again after that on a straight. And the diagonals kind of just get all kind of flat to an even surface. Now we're just putting it onto the table saw sled and making sure that both sides of the chopping board is cut so they're nice and square. And then we don't want unsquare sides, especially when we go to do the handles. And so here's a little sketch of what I wanted the CNC to do, and I spoke to a local business close to me, which is 316 Furniture, and they came back with that design. And here's a little bit of the process of them cutting the piece and cutting the board and getting the writing kind of put into the board. So massive shout out to them. I'll leave a link in the description for their business. They did an amazing job. Alright, so this is a little jig that I've made up to be able to do the handles. So I'm going to be doing just a little round handle in the center of the sides. So all I've done is just put a plywood piece of wood down. I've gone ahead and double-sided taped this, making sure that it's even and flat. And then yeah, just clamped it on. So I'm gonna set up the fence on the router and see how we go. So this is where it's going to end, midpoint, end point. So we need to set up the router bit so it only hits the end of there and the end of there. What we're going to do is we're probably going to make some stop blocks for each side. We'll clamp them down as well, and then hopefully we'll be able to make a cut safely. And this is literally how simple it can be. We don't need to overcomplicate it. This is just some scraps, some super glue, and we're just putting it on the sides, and they're literally just some stop blocks to make sure that we're not going over those marks. I'm not going to lie to you, this was not a fun process. We had to obviously add another block at the front there to stabilize it so it was flat. But yeah, it wasn't a fun process, and trying to actually get that depth at the start was a bit of a pain in the ass, but we kind of got there in the end and made it work. And just here you can see that I start to really cut on a tilt, and then I kind of correct it. That's why I probably should have done a bigger kind of stop, like a block at the front, but you live and you learn, it still came out mint. Just an after shot of after it's cut. Now the fun begins. Epoxy. Expensive liquid gold. I don't even want to know how much I've spent over the years wasting this stuff. Well, I've only been woodworking for about 3 to 4 years now, so probably not as much as some businesses, but anyway, it is bloody expensive. So my reasoning behind this, and what I have been told also from 316 Furniture, who do a lot of epoxy with this type of stuff, is to kind of seal it beforehand. So that's why we've gone ahead and we've just put some clear epoxy into kind of the cracks and also the letters, because we kind of didn't want, when we put black epoxy into it, we didn't want it to bleed out and kind of not stain the letters. So this is kind of a prevention method to kind of help us not have bleed out. So whether it'll work or not, we'll have to find out later in the video, but I'm assuming when I'm thinking and making this video that this is going to work pretty good. Now we're just doing the mix up for the black epoxy. I think we've also put some tuck tape or duct tape, one of the two. I think it's tuck tape, I'm not sure, but anyway, the red tape in the background, I forget, we put it across a few of the cracks, so hopefully it's going to prevent a lot of the bleed out. But yeah, I'm just going to pour the epoxy in here. Be careful not to get into any spots that doesn't need to be, and just filling it up, not too much, and then we're going to let that dry. Kind of use the torch to get out any bubbles. And then the base comes back in handy. So we use the Makita sander to sand down this epoxy. It's actually filled up these sanding sheets of mine really quick. So what you'll see me do in a second here is kind of get the air compressor and kind of blow out the sheets because it was just too dusty. And yeah, so that's obviously epoxy dust right there. It's a bit of a pain in the ass, but that's all good. As soon as I clean that though, you kind of get a bit more coverage and a bit more grit on the sandpaper, obviously because it's not blocked up. So a few times of doing that, and then we're pretty good to sand it down and get the epoxy off. And it really starts to show its colours now. At this point it's looking great. Just need to sand it down and get all the dust off. Not gonna lie to you, I sped this up because this is the worst sound of them all, is sanding sped up. Oh my days, nobody wants to hear that, so let's just skip through that and go straight to the laminate trimmer, where we're gonna kind of do a chamfer on the sides of the board on the top edge and kind of break the edge so it's not so much just a straight square edge. But yeah, you'll see me do this kind of in a second, and you'll see me break the edge. So yeah, we're just doing a little test. Always do a test piece just to make sure that you're happy with it, and I was pretty dang happy with that. There we go. So that's just breaking the edge. That's a chamfer. We didn't decide to do a round over on this one. If you ask me why I didn't do it, well, I don't know, I just didn't. So I did a chamfer instead. But it looks pretty cool, to be honest. I mean, I don't mind that. That looks pretty dang cool. Round over, I don't know. Sometimes it's a part of woodworking that I haven't really got into, but there's places for round overs and there's places for chamfers. And to tell you the truth, this came out pretty bloody good. So I'm happy with that. And just some hand sanding to break up the edge of the chamfer. And then we're going to move on to the sander, where it is the worst sound in the world, so we're just going to skip that part completely, speed it up, get rid of it, out of here. So I've gone ahead and purchased these to fill up these tiny little cracks in here. Because I don't have a drum sander, this is always going to be a problem. So we're going to heat one of these up and we're going to fill the cracks in, sand it down, and then we're going to oil it up. Now, if you ask me why I was using a screwdriver here, I don't know. I really don't know. But I just grabbed the nearest metal thing that I could heat up that would melt this candlestick or this wax stick. So yeah.
Now, why am I using beeswax? Well, because obviously it's a chopping board, right? So it needs to be as natural as possible. We're also going to be using some natural finish, I forget what it's called at the moment, but it's chopping board oil, lemon hinted, but it's all natural, stuff like that. So that's why we used it, because obviously the epoxy can be a big problem. We don't want to fill everything with epoxy, so this wax does the job. and it's already hard. So you have to scrape it off straight away. So that's what I'm gonna do. And it's actually filled the gap really well. There is a little bit of a gap there, so I'm gonna fill that. But man, that has turned out wicked. I'll do a before and after shot.
We in fact did not do a before and after shot. I don't know why, but does anyone else think that watching wax dry is very satisfying? I don't know. Just me probably. And then scraping it off, even more satisfying. Now the fun part of the build. We get to load this board up with chopping board oil and some wax to protect it. This is always the funnest part of the project, seeing your project come to life after giving it some oil. And man, look at those colors. It's just amazing. And then when we turn it over as well, start doing those handles. And then the backside, it just comes out really nice. I think the epoxy was just a massive touch to it. So yeah, very happy with how this turned out. Now onto some food safe wax. This is just to protect the board, give it a bit of hardness, and yeah, protect it from scratches, etc, etc. And here she is in all her glory, all finished up on a kitchen bench, and man, doesn't she look magnificent. Super happy with the way this has turned out. It kind of went all to plan, this project, except for the timing, but yeah, super stoked with how this turned out, and I'm sure that the married couple will love it as well. But what did you think, the viewers? Did you like this build? Do you like the maple and the walnut build and the strips of walnut? Do you like the handles and the epoxy? Let me know what you think down below in the comments. I'd love to hear from you. But as always, appreciate you watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Cheers.